The character variants in the Garden Warfare series add a lot of variety to the game. They add many different playstyles to experiment with, many different mechanics and gimmicks, and crazy, chaotic combat. In spite of that, that's not to say that everything is balanced. The wide variety of characters caused balancing issues to be an inherent problem, especially in Garden Warfare 2. The wide roster of characters incorporated a lot of variety and caused some balance issues. This is how variety affected balance. We've seen PopCap struggle to balance characters throughout the Garden Warfare series, but luckily both games are now in a better state than initial launch. It took them 2 years for both games to fix some balance issues. But why is Garden Warfare 2 more unbalanced even though it's been out for 2 years already? Well, I believe one of the reasons why is because of the countless cast of characters that are in the game. Since sequels are expected to have more content than previous installments, PopCap had to think of new classes and new variants to add to the second Garden Warfare. They had even more characters to think about when balancing, which is why more variety came at a cost. New characters called upon new strategies. You can see this through the difference of characters played in both games. In Garden Warfare 1, there are mostly pea shooters and foot soldiers because they're very applicable. However, in Garden Warfare 2, there is a diversity of characters because of new matchups, the capabilities of the new characters, and their applicability in most situations. Now, what do I mean by applicability? Applicability refers to how well a certain character can perform in a number of certain situations. For example, the pea shooter and the foot soldier are very applicable, as they can both exceed in offense and defense. Their main weapons pack a punch, their abilities allow them to escape or rush in, and they can hold well in duels or against crowds. If you played both of these characters for a bit, you probably have noticed that they don't have very obvious weaknesses. Their weapons and abilities allow them to be powerful in almost any situation. The rest of the original classes aren't as applicable as those two because they have obvious weaknesses. For example, Cactus has a hard time with close quarters combat, and Engineer is slow moving. Their weaknesses can be exploited to defeat them. Many players in Garden Warfare 1 are either foot soldiers or pea shooters because there are no obvious weaknesses to exploit. But because PopCap added new classes in Garden Warfare 2, this changed things. With what the new characters can do and the balancing changes, strategies changed. All-Star is now a bit more viable because he can tank the new spammable abilities coming from the plants, while Sunflower is a force to be reckoned with due to her upgraded damage and health. But I mainly want to discuss how the new classes changed strategies. Arguably, all the new characters perform decently or well at mid to long range, which make them predominantly applicable. Their main weapons or abilities aid them in being so. And because of this, it influenced players to stay back and snipe, which in turn also causes strategies that they are using on the new characters also be transferred to the classic characters. Which means everyone wants to stay back and snipe. Pair this up with the map design and the changed XP system and voila! It's a spamming snipe fest. That was, unfortunately, the effects of the new classes. With the new spam snipe strategy, tactics are different in Garden Warfare 2 than Garden Warfare 1. In the first game, you have to play a bit smart due to there not being many spammable abilities. In the second game, the new classes have a lot of spammable abilities, so the game has a lot of spam going around. While the new characters caused many players to play different classes, adding more variety, this obviously caused a lot of balance issues. With a total of 16 characters and a bunch of variants, there are a lot more things for PopCap to consider. Who should be a soft or hard counter for rogues? How effective should Captain Sharkbite be against Cithrons? How much health should Vampire Flower receive on successful hits? It's a lot to keep track of, and the decision process goes deep. To determine a weapon's damage, you'd have to take into consideration all the health pools of every opposing character. It has to be managed in a way where low health classes won't be easy targets and high health classes won't run away scot-free. You'd also have to consider if the weapon and or character is meant for crowd control or single target priority. As well, when you throw in variants with new gimmicks into the mix, you have to compensate for that as well. Agent P, for example, isn't your typical P shooter. He has a lower health pool, but more importantly, instead of splash damage, he has projectile bullets. There are a lot of factors to consider when balancing class games, especially in PopCap's case, since they have sub-characters or variants. While the game is partially unbalanced, it's arguably fun sometimes. You remember the motto, bigger, badder, bigger? PopCap wanted Garden Warfare 2 to be even bigger and crazier than Garden Warfare 1, making some fun new ideas. I reckon that the new characters were tailored to be fun to play. Citron and Rose were given get out of jail free cards so that players can have fun staying alive longer. Colonel Corn received aggressive abilities so that players can take joy in vanquishing. Imp has a freaking mech, Super Brains is a fun concept to experiment with, and who doesn't love sniping with Captain Deadbeard? Unfortunately, with these ideas, balance was basically thrown out the window. Plus, PopCap was under a tight timer due to wanting to release the game only 2 years after the first one. On the bright side, there is a lot more variety in Garden Warfare 2 than Garden Warfare 1. In a way, it's sometimes fun with all the craziness happening. The fact that you're not always going to fight the same characters will enable you to always switch up your strategy whenever a problem shows up. Whether this or wasn't intended by PopCap, it's a relatively good way of keeping things fresh. To add to that, there are always new characters and variants to try out and have a blast with. While both Garden Warfares aren't perfect in terms of balance, they are both definitely in better states than the first few months of launch. If PopCap really wanted to completely balance everything, they'd probably have to downright redo some concepts or even remove aspects from the game. But I think it's best if they would make an entirely new game to rebalance everything, come up with new characters in the new game, or think of another genre to spin off with PvZ. For now, I'm going to leave you all with a question. Do you prefer games with lots of variety but have some imbalance, or games that are balanced but don't provide a lot of variety? Special thanks to my friends From Flipping Man and Amateur Butt for helping me review the script. And as always, take care.